F, Paramount? What the actual F? Gosh, welcome to After the Snap. Y'all know who I am. Y'all know what it is. I already have a plethora of comments that I'm going to get to from Norman, who beat me here to share his opinions on what the heck Paramount has done today. Look, Win Grace, I see you, sir. I haven't even had an opportunity to watch your video yet because I have been literally sitting here in disbelief. But just in case you're a little bit late to the party and you are unsure what has got us all fired up, where I'm streaming on a freaking Friday, let's talk about what Paramount Plus has done, what has recently been announced in a Variety interview, or I'm sorry, in a Variety article. I can't even talk. Then I'm going to start getting to comments, so chime in if you like to. Make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe if you've not yet done so. Let's get into the particulars about this gripe session that we're about to go on. A new report from Variety today has rocked the Star Trek fandom community, as trade reports today that the animated Star Trek Prodigy series has not only been canceled ahead of its previously announced second season, but the show will in fact be removed from Paramount Plus and Nickelodeon entirely. So from Variety's stunning report, The Game, Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies, Star Trek Prodigy, the one that I'm particularly interested in these four, and Queen of the Universe have all been canceled at Paramount Plus. In addition, all four shows are set to be removed from the streaming service in the coming days. Y'all heard, in the coming days. The cancellation of Star Trek Prodigy, the first animated kids show in the Star Trek universe, comes despite the fact that the show was renewed for a second season back in 2021. According to an individual with knowledge of the situation, although the show had aired on Nickelodeon in addition to Paramount Plus, it won't be returning to Nickelodeon either. Those on the show will complete post-production on season 2, and then CBS Studios will be free to shop it to other outlets. So, just in case you thought we were still going to get season 2 on Paramount Plus and Nickelodeon, guess again. We will not be getting it on Paramount Plus or Nickelodeon. They are going to try to sell it elsewhere. Now, Netflix has been known to pick up what other people drop. We saw that with Manifest and other series. Hopefully, a streamer, somebody picks this thing up. But this will be a case of us just sitting with our fingers crossed, hoping for the best. Anywho, Prodigy and the other Paramount Plus shows being pulled in the coming days are just the latest in a line of nearly unprecedented memory holding of entertainment media, following a number of high-profile streaming library extractions at Max, which was formerly HBO Max, is now Max. Anywho, TrekCore reached out to Paramount Plus today and received this statement regarding Prodigy's fate. Star Trek Prodigy will not be returning for the previous announced second season. On behalf of everyone here at Paramount Plus, Nickelodeon, and CBS Studios, we want to thank Kevin and Dan Hageman, Ben Habone, Alex Kurtzman, and the Secret Hideout team, along with the fantastic cast and crew for all their hard work and dedication, bringing the series to life. Just a canned response, of course, from Paramount Plus. Prodigy aired its first season over 2 years with 10 episodes starting in fall 2021 and a second 10 late in 2022. The second 20-episode season of Prodigy was expected to debut on Paramount Plus late in 2023, with 10 episodes followed by a second set of 10 episodes in late 2024. Thankfully for the future of the show, post-production on the 20 season 2 episodes will be completed. Likely a sign that Paramount Plus believes Prodigy may find a new home without much difficulty. from creators and executive producers Kevin and Dan Hagman, series co-head writer Aaron Walke, Rock Talk voice actor Riley Alaska. I can't say it. I'm gonna highlight it. Alazraki, I think, Alazraki, and Star Trek Picard Season 3 showrunner Terry Matalas this afternoon. Star Trek has taught my brother and me to strive for a better future. While news of Star Trek Prodigy not returning to Paramount Plus is disappointing, we have faith this show will be picked up by a new home to help grow our fervent fan base and inspire the next generation of Star Trek fans. Our talented and passionate team of artists are working tirelessly to complete season 2, and we are staying positive and hopeful that our amazing fans will get to see it soon. Janeway would never give up, so why would we? Let's follow her orders and go boldly. I'm going to stop reading right there, because if you followed me for some time, then you probably know how important it is to me for Star Trek Prodigy, not just Star Trek Prodigy, for Star Trek to exist for the long run. So just to clarify, because Clarence had a good question, is season 2 coming to streaming? Not on Paramount Plus and not on Nickelodeon. They are finishing the second season, but that would be to ship it somewhere else to see if somebody else would want to pick it up. They have completely cut ties with Paramount, with Star Trek Prodigy, and it's something that I can't wrap my mind around. Why? Y'all know the one thing that I continuously preach is the survival of Star Trek into the next generation, and not trying to sound cliche. One of the ways that I was very confident that could happen is by getting new and younger viewers interested in Star Trek. And I thought that Star Trek Prodigy did an absolutely wonderful job of introducing a newer generation to Trek. I don't think I'm alone. In fact, I'm going to read Norman's responses, because he, just like me, is flabbergasted that I'm even sitting here talking about this. This is not even something I thought I would ever have to discuss. Star Trek Prodigy has been, over the past year, the crown jewel. If you, especially when we're talking about shows aimed at the family. We've got a lot of shows right now, and then those that they are also talking about are in production. But how many of them are appropriate for a person like me with a 1-year-old grandchild, or a person like Clarence with young children and a brand new child to introduce to Star Trek? How many of those shows can we sit down and honestly watch with our family? I'll wait. Definitely not the other animated entry. But before I go into that, let's pick up Norman's comments, because he had a lot to say. Norman said, I'm still seriously upset about this. This was actually what seemed to be one of their most successful projects. The animation is beautiful. The way it introduces Trek to the kiddies is ingenious. And the way they were also continuing the story with 2 key Voyager legacy characters was compelling. Granted, 20 more episodes, but where will they air? Will they air is even the more pertinent question there. Will they air anywhere? And where will the 20 from season 1 be found? If you don't have it on physical media, then we might not see it. Unless everything gets picked up by another streamer. Norman continues, I'm also very worried about other things, the future of Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, if there ever will be a legacy show. I care much more about these than the Academy or Section 31, to be honest. And what if this is an early sign Paramount Plus may fold or merge? And that is something that I've also been considering, especially when you stop production, or not stop production, when you cancel a series that was as highly regarded as Star Trek Prodigy, is that a sign of things to come? Right now in the US, the only way we can watch on demand and no extra cost streaming for Roddenberry and Berman Trek is Paramount Plus. Win Grace says, please don't get me started again. Win Grace has a video on his channel as well that addresses this situation. I have not gotten to it yet. And possibly after we finish here, we can all get to it together. Boost that algorithm. Norman continues, Paramount executives a year from now better be muttering like the board queen, Janeway, as they see her prevail. Win Grace says, I have to imagine if no one picks it up, at least they could drop it on physical media. And yeah, that is, I guess it's semi-acceptable. But when the way that season 1 ended was kind of cliffhanger-ish. What is going to happen next? We saw the Voyager, and I don't know what letter. Don't forgive me, Jay. I think it was Jay. We saw Dow be introduced into the fold of Starfleet proper. There were a lot of questions that needed answering, and we will potentially not get those answers as a fandom if we don't get it on a streamer. If we get it on physical media, you have to be you got to be in having the means to get the physical media. And I know that sounds very, very it sounds weird for somebody to say that, but a person like me, I don't have a discretionary income. So buying something on physical media, or eating would be the question for me. And I'm already paying you for Paramount Plus. Anywho, Clarence says, at least they didn't Batgirl it. This is true. But does that mean this is 100% the last season? I can't see them leading another studio or letting another studio have creative control, a la Spider-Man and Sony. And season 2 would probably be it. Yeah, I got you, Clarence. It took me a second. Yeah, but season 2 would probably be it. That's what it's starting to sound like to me. Oh, and hello, Justin. Justin is saying, I'm surprised they're taking it away. It was popular with the fan base. You know what? Opinions are like, what's, and everybody has one. But I can say that one of the things it seems like we mostly agreed on as a fandom is that Star Trek Prodigy was a pretty good show. If you watched the show, 9 times out of 10, you enjoyed it. I have not yet come across anybody who said I watched it and it was terrible. So there's that. Clarence says, this lets me know Lower Decks is their animated flagship and Prodigy was not regarded as highly. And I don't understand that because, and okay, I have my feelings about Lower Decks and its brand of humor at times. Especially the fact that it's an animated show that leans heavily into more adult humor. You won't be winning over the preteens with Lower Decks. So, and I know that maybe the age that they're aiming to start bringing kids into Star Trek is a bit older, but why? Why, when we got all these perfectly good series that once introduced, once brought into the young people's consciousness, that is perfect for them to jump off into, because you're not going to get adult situations or adult language until we get all the way up until probably it could become a little bit more adult when we get to Deep Space Nine. But that's not even that adult. Discovery and Picard are definitely more adult fare. So those are not the ones that we will let our preteens watch and bring into the fold. I thought that Prodigy was the absolute best case scenario into getting young people interested in Trek and preserving a legacy for the show. Wingray says, my video isn't super thought out. It was pretty much an instant reaction. I can only imagine what that will be, though. Norman is correcting me on that Voyager. Voyager J is in Discovery. I assume Voyager A was in Prodigy. Clarence says, maybe the Discovery cancellation was a prelude to all this. Picard is ending. Are we really going to do a Section 31 movie and a Starfleet Academy show too? I'm not so sure. It's not looking good. And I'm pretty sure that Clarence, who is the host of Discussing Trek, is going to have some things to say on his own besides what he says here in the chat here. So I will be looking forward to seeing what Discussing Trek has to say about the situation. Clarence says maybe the Discovery cancellation. Oh, same comment. Clarence says, I'll give it a watch later. Win Grace. Okie doke. Win Grace says I was so not ready for a live stream. I'm not in the mode, but I'm in the mood. The creative behind Prodigy have a working relationship with Netflix on the Troll Hunter shows. So that's a pretty good end. Thank goodness. Especially since Voyager used to be the highest streamed Trek show there. Justice says, what I liked about it, it had heart and it truly had the soul of Trek. Lower Decks is good and enjoy it also, but Prodigy had that heart. Lower Decks is just aiming at an entirely different demographic. And the demographic that it's aiming at, it seems to be in that Family Guy, American Dad, Rick and Morty, in that group. And I think that is for teenagers and above, not for preteens and below. My own opinion, but I don't think I wouldn't introduce intentionally my preteens to that type of humor. I'm very upset. I'm very upset because, as you guys all aptly pointed out, what does this mean for the future of Star Trek? Is there a future for Star Trek? What's going to happen beyond Strange New Worlds season 2? With a show, when a show that had as much upside as Star Trek Prodigy can be canceled, any show is on the chopping block. And we can talk about the other shows that they have pulled the plug on as well, but I'm not as familiar with any of those shows. I'm only here for the Trek. And Stream Elements. Okay, so Stream Elements is trying to get me to tell y'all to do stuff, but I ain't in the mood to do that either. We are going to go over to Twitter real quick because there was a Twitter thread that was of some interest to me from Shauna Benson. So Shauna Benson says, now that I'm back from picketing with Julie Benson at Netflix this morning, I finally have a moment to share my thoughts about the news that Paramount Plus is pulling Star Trek Prodigy off their service. Those of you who have followed her and Julie Benson for any length of time know that they are both diehard Trekkies. We went to conventions, watched the shows, devoured every book and comic we could find. The universe is practically encoded in our DNA. So when we met the Hagman brothers and they hired them to write for Star Trek Prodigy, it was a literal dream come true. I cried with joy when we got the job. Why? Star Trek, more than any other big sci-fi IP, started life as a little show with a small audience. When Star Trek, the original series, was canceled in its third season, it didn't die like most shows do. It actually got more popular because its small audience loved it so much. Star Trek, in a way, belongs to its fans. The franchise owes its existence to the fans, the true believers who poured all their love and passion into this show. When the show was off the air, the fans kept the legacy alive by forming fan clubs and holding conventions. And I won't detail what happened in the wake of the cancellation, um, but I'd say with a great deal of confidence that there would have been no Star Trek the Motion Picture without the fans. Back to the third tweet. Why did I cry actual tears of joy when we were hired to write for Prodigy? Because I'm one of those fans. I brought the merch and taped the episodes, and uh, she and her sister made Dr. Crusher uniforms. And now we can talk to a new generation of fans. We are proud of the work we did on Prodigy, proud to be Star Trek fans who embrace the principles and ethos espoused in the series more than any other fandom. Trek fans are by and large inclusive and eager to share their love of the Trekverse with others. Are there disagreements? Of course. What one fan hails as brilliant can be trashed to another fan. And we're experiencing that right now. But anywho, I'm going to finish reading her statement here. It doesn't make either one any less of a fan. In fact, the fandom is stronger because it can entertain wildly different points of view. And this fandom has endured for over 50 years. So while I'm heartbroken that Prodigy is being taken off Paramount Plus, I know it isn't the end of the world or of Trek. The show itself is quality, and I believe the reasons behind the decision have nothing to do with the show and everything to do with money, financials. It's not personal, it's just business. We hear that a lot these days as the entertainment industry tries to save themselves from themselves. But we all know that saying is a lie. It is personal to every person who contributes to making the shows we watch and love. These decisions are personal to those affected, but Viacom, Paramount should remember they may own Star Trek as IP, but more than any other franchise, Star Trek belongs to its fans who keep the torches lit, even in dark times. And they definitely take these things personally, like what I'm doing right now. I'm not advocating for boycotts or other actions. I am, but anywho, because there are other Trek shows that deserve attention and support. Star Trek Prodigy was always an underdog. We heard it over and over. What Star Trek fan will watch a show for kids? I'm that fan. And what kid will watch Star Trek? When you want to be involved in downtime with your child, you're going to find a way to get involved in that downtime, even if that means TV time with your kid where you're going to watch a show together. And that is a perfect opportunity to introduce your child to something that you like and for them to introduce you to something that they like. Why? Because now you guys have something built in to converse about. Star Trek Prodigy is another avenue of bringing families closer together. And I know I sound like I am jumping out of the window. I am not. It could be that thing where the kids and parents don't do enough with one another anymore. They don't sit down and watch a TV show. Everybody is off in their own corner on their own device doing their own thing. This is an opportunity to bring families back in the living room where we all sit on the couch and watch a series together. This was that opportunity, and it is going to be sorely missed because I know for a matter of fact that most parents are not going to sit down on their couch and turn on Lower Decks with their children. Anywho, we all went into the creation process with those two goals in mind: how to best introduce young viewers to a 50-year-old franchise simply, but not so much as to talk down to or bore fans. Prodigy had to service both audiences to succeed. I believe we achieved that goal. I am here to second that emotion. Star Trek Prodigy wasn't a WGA covered show. There are no residuals to collect and no financial incentive for them, regardless if it disappears or is licensed sold elsewhere. But we hope it won't completely disappear, as do I. We hope people continue to discover the show and enjoy it. That may be hard to do for a while until we know more about where it might land. There is some hope that they are committed to finishing production on season 2, which would improve its chances to be picked up elsewhere. It will be unfortunate that now, at a time when all of Trek is finally under the same corporate umbrella, that Prodigy will be the lone entity in exile. It doesn't make it any less canon to fans, but it definitely feels like a kick in the gut to all who worked on it. And I can agree with that. We expected the skepticism, the mockery, and even disdain for what we were creating as the show was announced. But we believed that in time, the fans would embrace it. Maybe not everyone, but enough. Infinite diversity and infinite combinations. After all, I'm not going to lie, this hurts a lot. Already, animation is treated as lesser than live action. Already, we are paid less for the same amount of labor to work on this show as any other Trek show. Already, we felt like we were given less consideration because it was quote unquote for kids. Animation is hard, if not harder than live action to write and produce. The amount of talent and passion that went into Prodigy is awe-inspiring. I hope it will find a new home where it can be found by viewers and appreciated, because we all deserve to have our work seen. If you're a Trek fan who watched Prodigy, thank you. If you weren't a fan but gave the show a chance anyway, thank you. If you introduced kids to Trek with Prodigy, thank you. And that was one of the things. My grandson was so little, and of course he doesn't understand anything but beautiful colors. But I started already with Star Trek Prodigy with my grandson Ashton. And I look forward to being able to do that for a long time to come, or at least in his little years. A long time would have been another 6 to 7 months. But you're telling me that at any day now you could pull this off of Paramount Plus, and then I lose that with my grandson. As we all know, fandom endures, especially Trek fandom. Live long and prosper. That to me said enough. I am extremely, extremely thankful for the work that was put into bringing Star Trek Prodigy to life, and the actual care that was taken in not making this solely a kid's show. It was my top series of 2022 for me, in my opinion. When I did my top 10 list for 2022, Star Trek Prodigy was at the top of it. And this to me is it's an insult to us as fans. And of course, we can make some noise. I'm going to pick up comments. We can make some noise and try to see if that makes a difference. I'm not 100% sure how much of a difference it'll make to Paramount, but it may make a difference elsewhere. And hopefully a streamer that we all already support will get it, so that we will not miss the second season of Star Trek Prodigy. And like Clarence said, it's highly doubtful that they will give someone else the keys to the kingdom as Prodigy is concerned, and make it where somebody else is deciding canon for Star Trek. But I wouldn't mind, I'm gonna hold out hope that at least after the second season that we can get one more to at least close out the story. Clarence says, other than the game, I think those shows were all relatively new. Yeah, I think the Pink Lady one was like real new, like new. Wingrace says, yeah, I'm surprised by the Pink Lady one. That one is heavily promoted by in everything every time he logs in, and I agree. I've seen a lot about the Pink Lady one because it's Grease, you know. Wingrace says, I'm not smart enough to know how this works, but if I were a streaming service, I would snatch up Prodigy and then make 3 spinoffs and have my own Star Trek universe on my service. And that is what I think that would go in any contract as part of taking Star Trek Prodigy, is that they wouldn't allow that to happen. I still hold out hope that it will happen. I hope that I'm wrong, but I doubt it. I doubt it very seriously, that we're wrong in our assumption that Paramount / Viacom would not allow that to happen. The one thing that I think that we can do is make some noise about it. And quite frankly, I'm seeing some complaints about what's going on with Star Trek Prodigy, but not enough. As a matter of fact, when I look at Star Trek, or when I look at my let's see, I'm going to see if it's still the same. I'll share it with you. I'm not afraid to share what would be trending for me. Under my For Me tab, for me, first and foremost, Twitter has not had this right for months, but that's an entirely different rant, right? Under my For You tab, Lower Decks is trending. No, nothing about Star Trek Prodigy is trending on my For Me tab. Let's take a look and see what is trending around the world. Paramount is trending, but it's trending with Rise of the Pink Ladies and Grease. We need Prodigy to be trending right along with that. Yeah, we don't have any Prodigy. Prodigy is not trending anywhere. So we can let people know that we have issues. Let's see if it's trending under entertainment. So no, we see Rise of the Pink Lady, Queen of the Universe. Still no Star Trek Prodigy. So for all of us, and I've seen quite a few people with their thoughts, starting to share their thoughts on this, but we need to share our thoughts in a way that is going to get maximum visibility, because I've got a small audience. We need some of the bigger YouTubers and content creators to get in on the bashing of this decision. I've seen Jessie Gender. She's had her comments. Now, Wayne Grace is saying the same thing that I said. He said he doesn't use Twitter, but he's seen several YouTube videos pop up. That is a good start. We need the larger ones, and us smaller ones, we're gonna come out and we're going to crack some heads with our opinions, but not enough people are seeing them, and we need to change that as well. But we need some of the larger YouTubers to get in on this, and the larger content creators and people who are quote unquote influencers on these social medias. And we need to see more complaining about this, because this to me was unthinkable. I can't even believe that we have to talk about this. I cannot believe it, because if any show was safe, I thought Star Trek Prodigy was. Wayne Gray says, this is also Friday. They love dumping bad news on Fridays to try and sweep it under the rug. If that means that we have to sit here and talk about this every flipping week, I will. I will find another reason to bring up Star Trek Prodigy and how disgraceful I feel that it is being canceled and is robbing a young audience of the opportunity to fall in love with Star Trek. Justice says, give it time. I think it'll trend once people know more about what is going on. The fact that Lower Decks is what's trending, it almost tells me that some folks know what's going on. And I'm going to see what we're talking about with Lower Decks. There could be a situation where Lower Decks is being compared, even though, because I feel a certain way about Lower Decks, and the way that I feel has not always been complimentary of this show. And I'm starting to try to give it more of a chance because I really like some of what they did in the prior season of Star Trek Lower Decks. I did. I liked some of what they did. The direction they were taking the show, to me, was either growing on me or it was getting better. It was speaking more towards fans like me, I guess is the easier way to say it. But I want to take a look and see what Star Trek Lower Decks is trending for. Let's look at that together, shall we? Shall we? Okay. Star Trek Lower Decks. Look at the latest. Boy, that takes me up further. See, some people are just taking this opportunity to crap on Star Trek Lower Decks. In my honest opinion, AI will replace Lower Decks execs whose job is to say no, it doesn't stand out, etc. to whatever they hear. It's just one less reason to keep paying for Paramount Plus once Lower Decks season ends. So some people are saying it's fine. We'll just not be subscribed to Paramount Plus after Lower Decks season end. And if that will hit them where it hurts as well. If the shows that you have the most interest in end and you cancel your Paramount Plus subscription, they're either going to start listening to the fans or they're going to fold, like Norman stated earlier. And while I don't want them to fold, I don't want the streaming service to go bye-bye. But at the same time, I do expect to see a little bit of what I want on the streaming service. And I'm making things a little bit bigger so you guys can see what it is that I'm seeing. If Paramount Plus is willing to do this to Prodigy, this makes me worried about Lower Decks or, prophets forbid, Strange New World Season 3. Again, that is another sentiment that has been expressed right here in these comments. Ideally, the next generation, no pun intended, of Star Trek would be Strange New Worlds, Lower Deck, Prodigy, and Legacy, and maybe more TOS era movies like Section 31, maybe. Each of them nurturing and expanding the universe of Trek in classic and new ways. I still think that the old series have enough to stand on, that once you get a person interested in Star Trek through Lower Decks or through Prodigy or through Strange New Worlds, etc., that they might want to go back and revisit the source material. It's kind of like everybody comes into a large franchise at some point and then becomes involved in what came before. Most of the mega fans, the big super fans out there, that is how we get involved and become these super fans. And I think that Dominic Martin has a point up to a point. I really believe that those legacy shows still have decent enough production value, and we're talking TNG on, to hook a new audience, to hook a younger audience. And then even that younger audience might even decide at that point to go back and check out TOS and the animated series, which I always forget about. Now, somebody else says, I think Lower Decks is as okay for kids as TOS or TNG. I disagree. Because never ever have I ever seen Captain Picard or anybody on his crew with his legs open showing his expletive. Never ever have I ever seen that. So until we see that happen in live action, then Lower Decks is not okay for kids. And then that Gamato, or whatever he was when he was doing that with the horn, funny for adults, maybe. That is not a children's show. It's not. I disagree with you, Incognito. Who, what, where, when, why? Why, when? Says we got Discovery and now Strange New Worlds on regular TV in New Zealand on demand, but the rest is Paramount Plus. So we're better off than most markets, I guess. But so many people don't even know Lower Decks, Picard, or Prodigy exist. But I've been seeing the overseas mess and shaking my head. And I forget about other countries, and they don't, these sound like US problems or North American problems. But this was something that should have been available to everyone everywhere. Star Trek Prodigy to deserve that kind of chance. Somebody else said it wasn't as good as Lower Decks. I beg to differ. Strange New Worlds, Picard Season 3, Prodigy, and Lower Decks are largely excellent. So people are talking a little about Star Trek Prodigy by way of Lower Decks. But we need to talk about Lower Decks a little bit more because, we need to talk about Prodigy a little bit more because Lower Decks is what's trending. And, execs, a lot of them, if they think that if their thing is trending, that's just great. We're on everybody's lips. Remember Morbius Morbius. Remember Morbius? When the Sony execs saw that Morbius was trending and people were making all the memes, and they thought, you know what we should do? We should re-release Morbius in theaters. Remember what happened there? Pardon me. Amazon might even be a good landing spot for Star Trek Prodigy. See, Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3, it got one good laugh out of me and had the worst episode of the show so far. So, I ain't going to go so far. I'm not about to dog the show out like that because I'm going to watch it just so that I can review it for you all and hope that there are episodes that speak to me. But again, we need to hear more Prodigy talk and less Lower Decks talk. A lot of people said they couldn't get through a single episode of Lower Decks. Let's see. Sean Ferrick, who does Trek Culture, says, I'm so sad I can't give Star Trek Prodigy enough praise. It pushed boundaries. It brought new audiences in. And it gave us back the Kate Mulgrew. I offer both my condolences and sincere congratulations to the whole team. You did amazing, and I'm excited for Season 2. People under that are saying it's very disappointing. I think people saw Nickelodeon and wrote it off simply because of that. It may be an unpopular opinion in the Trek sphere, but I found Prodigy to be better and ironically more mature than Lower Decks. And I can agree as far as the maturity. Lower Decks is supposed to be more lowbrow, more juvenile humor. If you're asking me, that's if you're asking me. I like to hear what you guys think. I'm gonna pick up comments. When Grace said, I'll say it's a good sign my reaction video has more views than the Strange New Worlds review I posted over 24 hours ago. I think that is a good thing. That more people are becoming interested in the fate of Star Trek Prodigy, uh, because of how new and how raw this wound is. It's just an open wound right now. Norman Buck, I don't want to say your whole name. I don't know why I keep wanting to do that, Norman. Two very different shows, right? For two very different audiences. And you hope that your Star Trek Prodigy audience will grow into your Star Trek Lower Decks audience, if in my opinion. Clarence says, I'm not a huge fan of Lower Decks, but I don't want to crap on it for Prodigy's sake, at least any more than I usually do. I really thought there could and would be room for both. It's so disappointing. Oh, I agree. And this Wingray says, not to besmirch Lower Decks, but that seems a little more low effort to me than something like Prodigy. And that is another way to look at it. But again, it's not like we talk about the Writers Guild and their strike that they're on right now. And Sarah Benson, I believe her name was, she said, we're not even attached to that. We're getting paid less than those writers. We're not attached to the WGA. They're part of the Animators Guild. And, even though it takes a lot to write a smart show, and Prodigy was that. It was a very smart show for a very young audience. The effort put forward by Star Trek Prodigy being and Lower Decks being a lower effort show, it still, to me, shouldn't even matter. It should matter more that Prodigy is just a good show for what it is. Yeah, I agree though, Win Grace. I don't want to crap on Lower Decks, and Prodigy does seem like a higher a higher caliber of animation and a higher caliber of writing. But Sarah Benson told us that they're not even getting paid the same as these or these other shows. So there's that. Norman says, I love Lower Decks, but it's not a show for kids. Obviously, it's more like Family Guy than, say, The Simpsons to get an idea of required maturity. And I agree, there's a lot that happens in Lower Decks that is aimed for an older, not old audience, but definitely an older audience. It's not the launch pad for a kid. When Gray says Lower Decks season 1 was meh. He said he liked season 2 and season 3 was a step down. Now, I can't remember which one I liked more. There were parts or episodes of season 2 that I was like, now, if they was capable of doing this the whole time, why they didn't do this? And season 3, I think there were more episodes that I was like, now see, they can do smart and still in their style. So if I remember correctly, season 3 actually moved the notch up for me just a tiny bit. When Gray says Prodigy took me about 3 episodes before I fell in love. I think I might have fallen in love instantly. The animation style, and then once we started getting into the story, and I'm like, this is not kiddie. This is not childish, but it's for children. Oh man, I think it had me hooked. I think it had me hooked from the beginning, from that first episode. Justice says, I think it'll find a new home and there will be something worked out and it'll be back. And best case scenario, that's what happens, that we get a new home for Star Trek Prodigy, and that, season 2 is a huge success, and Paramount Plus is going to kick themselves in the butt for letting it go. Of course, again, if it goes to another show and it ends after season 2 and they're already in post-production, this is not a Discovery situation where they can go back and film some scenes to put a bow on the series. It's just gonna end. So we don't get another few episodes. If Paramount doesn't green light something for them to go ahead and close out the series, then it's just gonna end, and we still gonna be feeling like what could have been. At least I would like to know how they would wrap this story up if they were going to wrap it up. Excuse me, y'all. It's just a disappointment. I started to just come on here and just say, look, I'm just going to talk about all the Star Trek. I'm going to talk about Strange New Worlds here. And because I was right in the middle of editing my Strange New Worlds review. So, that's going to be a little later because I stopped when I got this horrible, horrible news today about Star Trek Prodigy. So, yeah, the Strange New Worlds, I was going to not even do it. I was just going to sit here and talk about it and just say, forget it, I'll take the rest of the week off. I am unhappy with Paramount Plus for this decision, and them potentially giving us stuff that we didn't ask for, which I'm not going to say we didn't ask for. I've been behind an Academy series, and I've said that of course, I'm excited to see what stories they'll tell. We don't even know if we're getting that now, though, to be quite honest. They greenlit all of these new series or all of these new seasons of series way back in the beginning. So they could change their mind about anything. And so we don't know if we're getting this Academy series. We don't know that we're getting the Legacy series. As a matter of fact, they never promised us that. They have not yet promised us a Legacy series. But, if they're cost cutting like that, I don't even see us getting that. And I'm not 100% feeling secure about this this Section 31 movie. Justice says Paramount may lease it out in a combined project with another company. That has happened with other shows before. The only issue that I think that presents is that another company will be adding canon to Star Trek unless they make it very clear that Star Trek Prodigy exists in its own universe. Like the Abrams films are in their own universe. Maybe, possibly, I could see it happening if they could go into this under the understanding that this is not in the main Star Trek continuity. But if that's the case, then any show can go anywhere because we can always say this is an alternate timeline, which y'all already know I'm already advocating that some of the things that we're seeing in Star Trek right now can be in an alternate timeline. But I digress. I do not want to start drumming up a Strange New Worlds conversation. Clarence says, just when you feel the service had shifted to coming back home to the characters we know and love with Picard Season 3 and bringing Voyager characters back in Prodigy, they pull the rug. Absolutely. And look, I'm not even as attached to them having to bring back, like Picard Season 3 was full of nostalgia, and nostalgia feels so good. But to me, in my opinion, hanging out in nostalgia, hanging out in the hood where y'all grew up doesn't grow the universe much. You kind of stagnate. You stay in that place because that place feels safe and that place feels comfortable. And I know these people. You can move out into the universe and start to get to know other people. And that is how I feel about Star Trek Picard's Season 3. While I loved what they did with the story, I still feel like we went back to a place that was comfortable, and we did it. We did it nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia, in my opinion. Now, nobody has to agree, and I know a lot of people don't. And that's okay with me. That's fine with me. But once we start talking about where do we go from here, yes, you can have one or two of your legacy type characters and the story centers around others. I like that. I liked Prodigy for that. Janeway was not the Janeway that we knew and loved. She was a hologram. And when we got the Janeway that we knew and loved, the whole series didn't revolve around her. It still revolved around the young, intrepid crew and how they would handle themselves in very Star Trek situations. That is what I enjoyed about Prodigy. That's what I am enjoying a lot about Strange New Worlds. We got some characters that are familiar. They're familiar to us, but in a very different place. And so it feels like these are new characters, and it feels, and I guess you could say the same thing happened in Star Trek Picard, that they were all in a very different place in their lives. Okay, I get your argument. You ain't got to beat me over the head with it. Claire says, I think it would be a huge disservice to put it in its own universe after season 1. Exactly. But can you see somebody doing that? Can you see Paramount selling Prodigy to what's the one from what's the imaginary streaming service from Black Mirror, Streamberry? Can you see Paramount Plus selling Star Trek Prodigy to Streamberry and allowing them to go on in future seasons without putting any checks and balances on what they do? It's like you're giving the kids the key to the candy store, and they don't want to do that because then it makes them have to answer questions over here in this universe. So unless that's on an alternate timeline, I can't see how selling it will allow us to get more seasons of Star Trek Prodigy. I think that if they were to greenlight one more season, it would be very, very controlled by Paramount Plus or Viacom Paramount to say, this is what the story needs to be about, and these are the plot points, and you can't do this with this character and that with that character. And that sounds an awful lot like shackles to me. And I wouldn't want to be shackled to another studio's plan for a series. Maybe, it might not be as bad for a movie, like Clarence talked about earlier with Sony Spider-Man and Sony owning Spider-Man and Marvel using Spider-Man. There are some rules and regulations involved with their use of Spider-Man. And doing it for a movie might be one thing. Doing it for a series with these handcuffs on might be something else. Y'all let me know if you think that I am being a little pessimistic about how that would work. Justice says you can still keep it canonish if you lease it out. Paramount won't sell, they'll lease, and a lease, you can keep it canonish. Okay, I think I get what you're saying, that they would have to be behind the writing, the story. When Grace says, ideally, Star Trek needs a Kevin Feige to oversee all these things. And are there any other Kevin Feiges available? Because, and of course, we have not gotten this far in the DC universe, and I'm not trying to the James Gunn becoming the Kevin Feige of the DC universe has not been well received by a lot of the fan base. I mean, maybe not most of the fan base, but a lot of the fan base. Are we ready for a Kevin Feige type in Star Trek? And is that what Alex Kurtzman is? You know how so many people believe that Alex Kurtzman is just absolutely holds the reins on everything or every aspect of production of the TV shows and the animated features and the such. Do we think that Alex Kurtzman is the Kevin Feige, or is he just being given a far more, is the public giving him far more control than he really has? Justice says how MCU and other studios did before Disney bought it. Yeah, because the MCU, but then the MCU was still its own universe, and those other studios were not doing anything with the characters. But if you've got Star Trek Prodigy, where you have Janeway, Chakotay, and they could potentially do other things with the characters, then now you're kind of effing things up. You're putting a little you're muddying the waters. The Madone Plays says this is why the American animation industry is dying. It's over reliant on instant hits and toilet humor. Say that again for the people in the back. Thank you for being here, and thank you for that. Justice says Paramount would be co-producers. Sorry, hard to explain in short text. We have Alex as our Kevin. So Alex Kurtzman would be the equivalent of Kevin Feige in the Star Trek universe. And I don't want to get off all into that. It's like Paramount would be co-producers, but they still have to have a lot of control over the story. Am I right? The Madone Play says, honestly, Nick doesn't like anything without yellow sponges. Gosh, I mean, this was, if you ask me, Nickelodeon, I could care less whether it's there or not, whether it's on Nickelodeon. But Nickelodeon didn't even probably realize what they had. Because if it would have left Paramount Plus and stayed at Nickelodeon, you got Trekkies, and we come in numbers, but I agree, it has to be that kind of humor, not contributing to the overall intelligence of our youth. That's why our kids, and I'm about to go on one of those rants, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, the Madone Plays is sparking in me that our kids, the sound bites that they will talk in are silly, because some of the shows and the media they consume is so silly. And it's not just the kids, it's the grown folks too, because so many grown folks get all their entertainment from TikTok. Yeah, I'm going there. They can't hold a conversation about something with any substance. It's always something stupid, childish, idiotic, or you're waiting on me to make you laugh. And I'm like, that's not my job. I make commentary, but I'm not guaranteed to have you in stitches. That's not what I said I was signing up for here. But so many adults feel like you got to shuck and jive for them to be interested, to the point I'm going off on a whole tangent now. Thank you very much, the Madone Plays. Just like this submarine incident. These people, there are so many people who can't even see the seriousness in that situation. They making fun of it and making memes about it and talking about it as if it's entertainment. It's incredible how we have devolved. Our maturity level is just down to like the gutter. I almost went on a block party on Facebook because people are making these stupid jokes about these people perishing in this submarine. And then I realized if I did that, it would probably be me and 5 other people on Facebook if I just went and erased everybody who was talking stupid. But anywho, let's pick up Wingrace's conversation. Wingrace says, from what I've heard, and it may be wrong, Kurtzman didn't have any real hand in Picard season 3 or Prodigy. I think he's grand head, but not creatively or continuity minded. I don't know if I read that right. So correct me. But I agree that I don't think that he is putting all these pieces in place like a Kevin Feige would. Justin said the other studios funded the product and the MCU wrote the product. I got you. I'm understanding now. Wingrace says, I remember the Prodigy creators saying they didn't know who to ask about what ships they can include in the season finale, so they just picked their own. Wow. Justin says, so Paramount would write the Star Trek Prodigy show. Somebody else would fund it. And that sounds, what is the reason? If we can get the reason for why they decided to pull the plug, if it's a financial reason, then they want to part financially with Star Trek Prodigy. They want to gain some money by giving it to another studio or another streamer to air, but they don't want to pay out any further money for the production or anything of Star Trek Prodigy. Now, could that change if a lot of people make noise? Could that change? Of course it could. But it sounds to me, as we talked more and more about it over the last few months, we've been talking about how streaming is in trouble. Streaming, not Paramount Plus, but streaming in general is running into some real issues as far as becoming profitable. So if this is their way of, we're going to wash our hands of Star Trek Prodigy and Discovery and their entire production and all of that, we're going to just clear it off of our books, then would they want to pay the writers to redo the scripts and make further episodes of Star Trek Prodigy? This is me, devil's advocate, as I always am. Mad One plays. Okay, the Mad One plays. Look how they treated Avatar: The Last Airbender. They passed that around like, thank you for giving me the correct pronunciation, Mad One. But again, are we talking about the series? We're talking about the live action series of Avatar: The Last Airbender, or are we talking about the animated Avatar: The Last Airbender? Because again, like you're pointing out, that was some smart TV too. If you ask me, I liked the animated. Now I know we got this live action one, and hopefully it lives up. It does a little bit better than that live action movie we got. But hopefully the live action series does a little bit better with the source material. But yeah, I agree. We are dumbing. Everybody is so dumbed down. If it is not exploitative, if it is not inflammatory in some way, or just plain stupid, people don't want to have anything to do with it. People look at me crazy. Are you talking serious about some doggone Star Trek? Star Trek, as much as it is a lot of fun, but there is so much, like when we get to talking about the philosophy of Star Trek, there is so much to be gleaned and so many different ways that you can take Star Trek. And there's so many different conversations that can be had about one episode. that to me is a show that makes you think, and it works to, I guess it works to exercise those muscles that a lot of us, the little gray cells, or what, how does Sherlock Holmes put it? It allows us to work our brain, make us think outside of the box, because we're being presented one thing in our face, but there are so many underlying messages inside of an episode of Star Trek. We can even look at this episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Yesterday, the latest Ad Astra per Aspera. That episode, I found so many strings that can be pulled in that episode, and I truly enjoy a show that makes you think, a show that presents it and it's entertaining, and then when you get an opportunity to grab your little cup of wine and put on your smoking jacket in front of your fire and you start thinking, and then to have a place, so like we do on Engage Live here on Sundays, to have a place where we come and chop that up to discuss so many different alternate aspects of this Star Trek episode or that Star Trek theme, or, Star Trek makes us smarter if you are engaging in the content. Now, some of us watch it for face value, and that's fine too. But I feel so lucky that even though I have a small following and a small audience, that this audience is smart as hell. You guys are smart as whips. The little gray cells, that's Parole. Yes, it's not Sherlock Holmes, it's Parole, and I love him too. I used to read those books as a little girl. The Mad One plays. I did. Poirot. It's a French name. Yes. Agatha Christie. I used to read those books. And I still like the series. I'll watch those old Poirot episodes. I love that show. Anywho, so yeah, it's the same as when you look at the fandoms of Doctor Who, for instance. That is another very smart series with some very smart fans. Yes, there is an awful lot of entertainment in just watching the episode, but then the conversations that you can have later. I'm always so impressed with how we, or what we can take from an episode, and what we can take from a series or a movie. I like to do the same thing with movies. Takes a little bit more of digging sometimes, unless the movie is being like right in your face with it. Anywho, Star Trek Prodigy is a jewel. I don't know if we can save it. If we do save it, I don't know if it's going to be just for these 20 episodes, if we can talk some streamer into picking it up, or if I'm being pessimistic and that there can be a deal struck that will allow for future seasons of Star Trek Prodigy. I'm looking forward to either option, but of course, I'm leaning heavily towards being as optimistic as some of you in the chat, that Paramount can lease Star Trek Prodigy and that we can still get future seasons of Star Trek, at least to at least to finish out the Star Trek Prodigy story. If we can do that, then I think there will be a level of satisfaction. We are already losing Star Trek Discovery, and to some people, that's not a loss. To me, it's a huge loss. To me, it's a huge loss, because it's telling the naysayers and people who didn't enjoy it that Star Trek is only one thing. And I think there's enough room in the universe for Star Trek to be many things, and that there is an audience for different kinds of things. And just because you are not a fan of this kind of thing doesn't mean that there is no audience for this kind of thing. So, just like I understand that I am not the intended audience for Star Trek Lower Decks, spoiler alert, bet y'all didn't know I was going to say that. I'm not their intended audience, but I recognize there is an audience. And if that audience uh, gains an interest in Star Trek in general, in Star Trek proper, I hate to say that, then Star Trek Lower Decks has achieved a goal that most shows aspire to. It is to be a launching pad or a jumping off point for somebody to be initiated into the fandom and then to grow. When Grace says, if we can get these episodes elsewhere, we really need to show up. We definitely do. That we cannot let it be a lackluster effort. We have to show that this is the type of stuff we want. We want to be challenged by Star Trek. And not just us. When we introduce it to our children, I don't want it to be no dumb stuff. I want them to be challenged, to have to think, to get a little message of the week for them. The same way that we sit around on Sundays, guys, and we have our philosophical conversations or just asking or answering a deeper question within Trek. Those little episodes of Star Trek Prodigy did the exact same thing for kids, but only on their level. And we need to ensure that if we were to get these episodes somewhere else, that we bring an audience. We gonna have to if we want to protect the legacy and not just the show that's from Terry Matalas. If we want to protect the legacy, we are going to have to show up and show out. Norman said, one step at a time. We need those 20 episodes and a place to see season 1. I agree. And I hope that is I hope that comes faster than any of us are expecting. I truly hope to see somebody say, raising their hand and say, you know what, it could come over here, because we see that it's got a potential. Beautifully done series. Clarence says, it tells me Paramount doesn't care. They just want the money. And look, I can agree with that. And that Star Trek was nothing but dollar signs to Paramount. Okay, his further question is, why would anyone buy it after they know all the other Star Trek content is on Paramount? Yeah, because it's kind of like what Netflix did with the Marvel shows once Disney Plus became a thing, and Netflix was like, well, we're not doing no more of these Marvel shows, because these Marvel shows are going to point you or point our viewers in the direction of Disney Plus right after this. So nope, we don't want to do any more Marvel shows. We're not giving you guys free publicity to keep your name in our mouth so that they can go and sign up for Disney Plus. So I can see that being an issue. When Grace says, my opinion is that Paramount should have one flagship mainline show and then have all sorts of different versions around it. Without Discovery, Strange New Worlds is that flagship for now. And I think so. Yeah. The main show should be the main attraction, and then they need to have different things around it. So yeah, I agree. Decide where you want to be in the timeline, and then build some adjacent series around that, or what do we spin off from some of these things. And I don't know, will the Star Trek Legacy show happen? Do we need it to happen right now? Do you guys want Star Trek Legacy to be the flagship show of Paramount Plus if Paramount Plus decides to go in that direction? Because it sounds like a great idea to us. Paramount Plus is making some real questionable decisions. So to have one flagship show, and that show being Strange New Worlds and or Star Trek Legacy, which one would you choose? Where do you want to be in the timeline? Do you think that we have enough to explore in the era around Strange New Worlds before we launch off into another era? And I don't know if I'm reading you right, Win Grace, so please correct me if I am not. Norman says, well, once we had syndication and UPN, and with the season 2 that Paramount chooses not to host, and there's a definite fan audience for Prodigy, I think another streamer will want it. I agree. I think that we will probably be safe to assume that another streamer is going to want to pick up those 20 episodes that are done. Will we get more? And I know that I'm jumping the gun. I know that I'm asking questions about something that's so far out, because 20 episodes will take us clean through 2024, probably. So we won't even be talking about a new series until 2025 or later. Will we get more? Star Trek Prodigy is that important. As long as it's telling a complete story, as long as they tell a complete story, we could keep watching Star Trek Prodigy over and over. I could put my grandson and my granddaughter my soon to be granddaughter, I could put both of them. I got 2 Ds. I could put them both there, and we can watch Star Trek Prodigy over and over like we do Disney shows and the such, Disney movies and the such. But oh God, would I love to see new episodes coming out that my grandbabies can grow up with. Oh gosh, that would mean so much to me. More than just putting them in front of the TV and be like, set it and forget it. I don't want to do that. I want my grandkids and I to have a little bit of a bond over something. And this is why I put Ashton in front of Star Trek Prodigy so early. It's because, that conversation that I was talking about where you're sitting on the couch and this is what you do together. That's what I want. That's what I want. It's something that I missed. Not 100%. We did do things together, but I missed a lot of it with my son because it was always work, 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 work. And now that I'm kind of sitting still and I have a chance with his son and soon to be daughter to do all of the things that I didn't do right with him, I want to be the best Gigi ever. And one of the things that I love is Star Trek. And because I'm going to love these kids, I want to share that with them. My son didn't get into Star Trek. So, but he is into very much. Now, we do the Marvel thing together. He is very much into Marvel. He never was into Star Trek. So me and my son, our things together now are Marvel or the MCU. He doesn't like DC. He don't like too much going on over there. As he said, they just don't have their ish together. So we do Marvel. We do The Boys. Stupid stuff like that. But of course, this is my opportunity to sit down with my son and we bond over this and talk about stuff that, that's on our minds or whatever. That's our time together. That's what I want with my grandkids. And I thought Star Trek Prodigy was going to be at the center of that. And of course, there are other shows and it doesn't always have to be Star Trek, but boy, did I want it to be Star Trek. Justin is now putting on his pessimistic pants. He said legacy will never happen. Just my opinion. I am apt to agree with you, sir, especially after the way they just did this crap. And then you think about legacy and the ensemble and the people that you would have to pay to do that. I don't know, man. Thank you, Clarence. You just said what I said. After this, I'm not sure they can afford legacy. Exactly. They can't afford it unless they do the smart thing and stop trying to make a certain number of episodes. Say 10. We're going to make a 10 episode series. It don't have to be 10 episodes. Your series can be 5 or 6 episodes if that's all the story you got. But if once you start prolonging a series just to fill a number of episodes, then that's when you start effing up, because that's money you could have kept in your pocket if it's going to produce a bad episode. And I'm looking at you, Star Trek Picard season 2 especially, and season 3 if you ask me, because they stretched a whole lot of stuff out in season 3 that could have been nicely folded into another episode, and that could have been a shorter season, and we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation, because they broke the effing bank messing around with Star Trek Picard season 3. Yeah, I said it. What? I said it. There were parts of Star Trek Picard season 3 that were completely unnecessary. And if you want me to continue, we can do the same thing with Discovery. There were a lot of seasons that could have been a whole lot shorter because they did not have enough story to continue with all those episodes. Yep, here I come, y'all. The only series, in fact, the only series that had just enough episodes for its story was Star Trek Prodigy. Now, and Star Trek Strange New World season 1. Season 1, because of the nature of that storytelling, that Star Trek Strange New Worlds was fine too. All the rest of them series, everything else they did that was serious series, they had too many episodes. They did not have enough story, and they started trying to stretch stuff out. I don't want to cuss. They started trying to stretch stuff out, and then you stretched out not only this series and bored people over periods of or points of time within the series, but you also stretched your wallet. And what did that get you? Now, where are you at now, Paramount? Standing around with your pockets hanging out, talking about you broke, and ending one of the best series that you had on your streamer. Lord have mercy. Let's pick up Wingrace. Wingrace says, if other streamers smell blood in the water or a weakness in Paramount, they might pounce on Prodigy to build that goodwill. If and when Paramount fails or falls, they could have a leg up on all Trek back. And you know what? If you're going to do it and do it right, whomever this other streamer, Streamberry, will continue to use Streamberry as my imaginary streamer. If Streamberry say, you know what? Let's just wait. Let's just circle the ship. They got to come out eventually. If Streamberry says that, and Streamberry is willing to throw the proper amount of effort and money at Star Trek, buy it up. Let's get some movies on the big screen. Let's get some series that are intriguing and engaging for the fans, and let's move forward with the fandom. It ain't got to be Paramount. Paramount can go kick rocks if they are not going to do right by the franchise. Norman says it's amazing with a lag with a writer strike. Paramount couldn't see that Prodigy would have eyeballs for trekkers who want new. I'm still dumbfounded with their decision. I am flabbergasted. Completely hood. I was not expecting that at any point today. When I saw it, I sent it to Claire. It's like, you see this? I thought it was a joke. I was looking to make sure that Variety was spelled right. Like, did I type in the right? Yeah, I did. Justice says we may get Prodigy animated movies like the DC animated universe. That would be interesting. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind, if again, if this is the only way that we can keep these characters alive and at the forefront, I wouldn't mind that, because to me, it's the characters, the new characters with a blank slate, that you are not boxed in by anything. You can move forward with these characters in any direction. That is extremely important right now. It wasn't as important with Picard season 3, because that was what it was. It was for this love letter to TNG fans. But moving forward for the entire franchise, we need some new characters. Yep, you can have one or two holdovers from other series, but we need characters that are going to push us into the next, I keep saying the next generation, but we saw it done very well with Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Now, they might have felt like they had to bring Worf in, but I thought it was enough bringing Miles O'Brien over to Star Trek Deep Space Nine, fleshing out that character, letting us get to know him better, along with all of the other anchor characters of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and then bringing in Worf, who got far more of a personality in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I think we could do something like that moving forward with other characters, but emphasis on growing, moving with new characters, not continuously going back to the same well of Spock, the center of the Star Trek universe, obviously. And the other shows who introduced new characters were very interesting because of that. And even like Voyager, they brought in some familiar faces here and there, but for the most part, there was a group of people that we had to meet, get to know, and then for them to find their place in the universe. And I like that. And for all the people, or for a lot of the people who didn't like it then, they ended up loving it now. We just gotta wait. Like I said, Discovery, just wait, girl. They coming. It's just a shame that we don't have the syndication anymore, that everything is behind a paywall, and it, a new audience would have to be paying to find Discovery or Picard or any of these other series, unless they start shipping more and more of them over to Pluto, which I would not mind them doing, to be quite honest. Put it over there on Pluto, and let's get some new eyes on this stuff, or some eyes who can't get a streaming service, that they just want to watch it for free. Anyway, When Grace says they need to stretch out to 10 episodes, because that forces you to pay for 3 months instead of 2. Right. That is a concept that I had not even thought of, but this is true. But if you're putting out bull, you know what, then the next season, if there is a next season, I'm going to think twice, or I'll just wait to the end of the season. I'll just wait to the end of the season and watch it all at once and cancel your ass. So if you are doing things in such a way that it's only about the money. But I see what you're saying, When Grace, and that makes the most sense as to why they stretches things out in a way that they shouldn't, because they don't have enough story to tell. Norman says Discovery season 4 would have been much stronger if it had half the number of episodes. But you're trying to tell her how many episodes was it? 13? You're trying to tell a 13 episode story, or you're trying to tell a 10 to 8 episode story in 13 episodes. And there is nothing that says this episode here could be an hour and 10 minutes long, but that episode there can be 38 minutes long. There's nothing that says you can't do that in streaming. You see it being done in The Mandalorian. You see it being done in the Disney shows, that there are different varying lengths to the episodes. Just stop shooting when you've shot enough. Stop trying to make it a certain amount of time or a certain amount of episodes, because we're not stupid. We realize when you're just putting filler in, or at least most of us aren't stupid. We realize when you're just putting filler in to keep us in our seats, and it is insulting. You know, Justin says Picard season 1 was a pretty complete story. People may have an issue with season 1, but I loved it almost as much as any show. Yeah, I said it. Ha ha ha. Look, I didn't hate Picard season 1. They took some swings. Look, and now I'm saying big swings, like the entire cast of Star Trek Strange New Worlds on their press tour. But they took some swings, and I appreciated that. I also appreciated the fact that this wasn't a nostalgia fest. We got, was it 2 characters that we record 3? We got Picard, whom we recognize and know. And then we got that one episode with Riker and Troy, and then we got a little bit of Data and in little various spurts. But to me, that was taking a chance on using a legacy character, Picard, to move forward in the universe with Rios and Soji and everybody, bringing Seven back and Raffi. When they introduced those characters, fresh blood, new people, blank slates. We could say Picard was doing anything like they did. They said he was just chilling on waiting to die, but with these new characters, you could say anything about, and then we can move those characters into further into the universe. But instead, we just said, let's forget it. Next season, let's go to the Borg and bring this weird Borg queen. And that was weird. There was a lot weird going on with the second season. There's a lot that it was just weird. But this third season was like, it was like, okay, we're not going to take a chance this season. We are going to go back to what everybody knows and watch this season be a success. And it was. So Wingray says, I know it was never going to happen, but when they announced Academy, I really wanted it to be with the Prodigy kids. Wouldn't that have been, even though, like you said, Wingray, they would have had to put an awful lot of money into either CG or into makeup for it to be the Prodigy kids, but it would have been great. That was a great opportunity. And unless they canceling Prodigy because they plan on doing that, I'm still 100% completely against them canceling Prodigy. If they're going to make the Academy show a live action Star Trek Prodigy, yay, I'll eat all of my words because that is a good idea. Yeah, Justin, the DC animated stuff is pretty good. There's very few of the animated movies that I didn't like. I'm trying to think. There was one or two, but it was so few and far between that I don't even remember which ones that I didn't like. I really liked was it the Wonder Woman one with the Themyscira? I liked the one where they showed, it was at Flashpoint. So I liked Flashpoint. There was and I don't know if I'm saying the right titles. I just know what comic they might have been based off of. But there was a lot of DC animated stuff that I liked as far as the movies and the series, the Batman series, the animated series, some of the best TV ever. And yep, I said it, not just the best DC, not just the best animated. I said some of the best TV was in the Batman the animated series. And there's a jumping off point. I used to love the Justice League. Um, I will still watch the Justice League if you give me an opportunity. I'll still watch Young Justice. You give me the opportunity, put me in front of the TV, I'm watching it. So yeah, I believe that DC really had a great handle on what they did in animation. And that's something that me and my son did get into when he was younger. But they've had fair to middling success with the movies. Okay, Grace is letting me know that Strange New World season 1 has been on Pluto recently. I did not know that. I knew they had TNG, and I knew they had recently gotten DS9. I think, was it DS9? I think, but I didn't know that they were introducing Strange New Worlds over there to people. So not a bad idea. Not a bad idea, because you don't ever know who you might pick up to watch this second season on Paramount Plus from putting it on Pluto. When Grace also said, and what's funny is back in the days of 24 episode seasons, some of the filler became the best stuff. Now filler is just biding time. No need to be creative. Right. Remember in Picard season 2 when they had the episode where they were with the FBI agent and they sat in that effing room for the entire shift. They sat in that effing room for the entire episode. What a waste of time. Did they think we weren't going to notice? 7 was a season 1. Yeah, I forgot about her. Wingray says, now all they do is kill our great new characters, Himmer, Rios, Shaw. Elnor, I guess, but he keeps coming back to life. Yeah, Elnor got more lives than a cat. But yeah, there were so many things interesting things that could have been done with these characters. And they just said, forget it. As Reinhardt put it one day in on Discussing Trek, he said that they make these people for cannon fodder, and that's exactly what they are. When Grace says, I just started watching Justice League animated show again because shockingly, it's still on Netflix, not Max. They must have just put it back on Netflix because it was on HBO Max. But thank you for letting me know that it's on Netflix again, because now I'm going to go back and watch it all over again. And I watched this. Now, that's something else that me and Ash have sat and watched in his young little life, because I think that Justice League, even though it can get a little mature, it is still some well-written animated TV. Well-written. Don't get you started on the FBI agent. I knew that FBI agent was going to get you riled up because, yeah. Justice says, happy you like DC animated, and rest in peace, Dwayne McDuffie. He was a writer on some of the best ones. He passed away very young. Dwayne McDuffie, that's who is that Static Shock, and gave us a lot of, from an African-American kind of perspective, characters. I remember Dwayne McDuffie, and I did enjoy his work. He did pass away too young, too soon. Gone way too soon. But yes, I love the DC animated stuff. Love it. And I think, again, that it is some of the best stuff that DC does. Wigray says, I cry every time I watch the Justice League epilogue with Batman is sitting on the swing. Is that the one with the little girl when I can't remember. You're going to have to remind me. Or how about I just look it up? I'm sitting right in front of a computer, right? Justice League Unlimited. I could not remember. Yeah, I loved Dwayne McDuffie's work because it was a different, I guess, a different take on, because when you sometimes would see characters that you know and love, and then you get introduced to something new. There's a different a flavor to Static Shock, and you could see the influence of having a black writer. And this is not me trying to be divisive, but when you have a character that is his whole identity is tied up in being this black superhero and it's written from a black perspective. We got some great episodes that Anansi, when he went to Africa, those episodes to me just far and beyond some of the best animated stuff that I have seen. Yeah, so Dwayne McDuffie was a great one, was a great dude. Epilogue is the 13th episode of the second season of Justice League Unlimited. Yeah, that's Dwayne McDuffie as well. And let's see. Terry McGinnis breaks into the high security home of Amanda Waller. Ooh, yes. Yes, I did like this episode. He confronts her, demands answers. She seems unsurprised to see him and insists on telling the story at her own pace. Yeah, I remember this. And yes, it's a fantastic episode. Freaking fantastic. And it was an end to Batman Beyond as well. When Grace says love Static and then started reading the old milestone stuff. That's ain't that what this is what we were just talking about though. Isn't it amazing how falling in love with the character in one medium makes you go back to another? See, this is what they're not getting. This is what they not getting over there at Paramount. Static Shock was pretty good. You enjoyed it. Yeah, I loved it. Loved it. I'm trying to think. Did McDuffie have a hand in other? Let me see. Dwayne McDuffie. Of course, Dwayne McDuffie was producer, Justice League Unlimited, Static Icon, Hardware, yes. If you watch some of the stuff where I ventured into talking about DC and stuff, I made a list of the characters that I would like to see show up in James Gunn's DC universe when they start to build it out. And Static and Icon were both on my list. Yeah, that was definitely some good stuff. So I guess I've yelled and screamed and fussed and cried and begged, and now we're starting to think of ways that we can get Star Trek Prodigy back, and just it's hard to believe. Again, we're talking about this because the show was so good, but here we are, and you guys have given me a little hope. That hope is you. So yeah. The Doom DC animated movie was his last one. Doom. Which one is that? I know I watched it, but I have to remind myself. The premise of the story is both simple and yet intriguing. Batman has secretly devised stratagems. Yes, I do remember this to neutralize his fellow Justice League members, and then we had did we have them on different teams? Is this the one? And kind of one, was this the one where Wonder Woman and was it Wonder Woman and Superman? I don't think we put them on the same team, though, was it? Anyway, let me read the storyline. The Justice League are a team of great power, but also personal secrets that changes when the immortal villain Vandal Savage has Batman's Batcave secretly raided to learn them all and more. Soon the Leaguers are individually beset by their... Oh, yes, I remember. This is not what one I'm thinking about. This is when when Vandal Savage learned their weaknesses and was picking them off. Yes, I do remember. And it was all because Batman kept all of the weaknesses of his friends in his back computer. Yep, I remember. So anyway, I guess I'm about to get up out of here, y'all. I've fussed. It's just the three of us here now, y'all. And I have fussed, and I hopefully I've made my point that it was a horrible idea to cancel this show. And I got to go back to the top of this. And somebody told me, oh, it's not on here. I was going to say, somebody told me that my pinned comment was wrong. So I'm going to have to change that. But anywho, y'all, if you feel free to keep talking, keep the conversation alive. Let us know if you guys coming up with any plans on how we can move as a fandom to keep Prodigy alive, at least in our eyes, or at least on another streamer where we could at least go back and watch it at will and without having physical media, even though it's seeming that that's where we're going back to. We're going back to, if you don't own it on physical media, you don't own it. Because, whole different conversation. All the digital media that you might have here and there and everywhere, they say you don't own that. Like Amazon, I would buy all of my streaming stuff on Amazon and just have a library of all the MCU movies, several of the DC movies, several just movies. Signs, that's one of my favorite movies. And, I got a lot of stuff there. Pleasantville, a lot of stuff there. And then they tell you that you don't own them movies. I pay for them. What the hell do you mean I don't own them? Wigray says, I did episode reviews for the second half of the show. Assuming I can find a place to watch it, I might go back and do more videos on the show. I'm trying to remember what show we talking about. You talking about Justice League or Static Shock? Which one? Tell me. Justice says, I agree. Sad is gone as of now, but let's hope, pray it returns, and we keep it in the public eye. That's all we can ask for, is that we, again, just like Sarah Benson, I believe her name was, just like she said, Star Trek belongs to us, the fans, and Prodigy. When I did my Prodigy reviews, I was doing a show called Stream Something Sunday, and I would talk about more than one show. So I would be talking about several shows I was watching that week, and Prodigy would be one of them. But if we were to get, or shoot, it's too late now because I can't do episode reviews. I got a lot on my plate. A lot. I got too much on my plate because I told you guys I started my second podcast back up. It's a true crime, mystery, paranormal podcast. It's called Sinister Silhouettes. And I got to write for that too. And writing for that is not like writing for, it's not the same as writing for Star Trek reviews. Star Trek reviews kind of come real natural. Even though I'm watching it and all of this stuff, it's still there. It's like a more natural conversation, easier to just come out of my head. It's easy writing for me. This podcast, Star Trek. I mean, I'm sorry, Sinister Silhouettes. It's a little bit different because you got to have things right. You got to have your facts right. It's not stuff that I know every detail to without making sure that I'm getting every last one of the details right, because you don't want somebody else to point out to you that nope, that ain't right what you said. So I'm going to try to find my Google link for that for my second podcast, and maybe send you guys a link. So if you want to support me over there by subscribing wherever podcasts are served, and by listening to an episode or two, hopefully, let me see, as soon as I find, oh, there I am. I was going to say, yeah, but if you listen to an episode or two, and also subscribe to it wherever podcasts are served. I'm sorry it's taking me so long to get this out of my mouth. It's taking me a long time. My mouth is not working. Let's see. I'm gonna put that right here. Oh, that's a lot of letters and stuff. But yeah, it's right. You guys, that's the link. Justice says, I buy the DVD, then I know I own them. Yeah, because I got no time for their games. Right. I should have done it like that, but I was like, oh, physical media is going the way of, the dinosaur. And now look where I'm at. Amazon telling me I don't own my stuff. Everyone buy Prodigy on DVD, because if they see people buy it, they may make movies. Hopefully, all of those things work, and we can keep it alive in one way, shape, or form. So I don't have anything else. It's been fun, y'all, for this impromptu live stream. We got to sit down in the middle of the week and have a conversation, but that just means your Star Trek Strange New Worlds review is going to be a few hours later, because I am not finished editing. So I will talk to you guys in the next one. Live long and prosper. Peace.